Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy X-Man 1991 coming to you back again with another video. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm going to reveal my first list of 2025. But before I get into that, I want to talk to y'all about Monday Night Raw's debut on Netflix. After watching many people ranting about Monday Night Raw's debut on Netflix, I didn't even watch Raw on Netflix because on Monday I was pretty much too tired after coming home from my 50-minute walk. The wind pretty much knocked the hell out of me, especially in this cold weather. I'm gonna let y'all know in my community post, are you a cold weather person or a hot weather person? I won't be mad if you say you're a cold weather person. I can definitely handle the cold, but I'm pretty much more of a hot weather person. Since summer is my favorite season, I could definitely handle the heat. But yeah, I'm more of a hot weather person myself. Even though I like the cold weather, the hot weather is better for me. Yeah, that's the reason why I didn't watch Raw, because I was an hour away from Raw coming on Netflix, but I eventually passed out because I figured that Raw's debut on Netflix was ass. It was trash. And I agree with the people that made videos about that. I don't understand what was the hype about Raw's debut on Netflix anyway. I just don't understand. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody that didn't see it. I'm not going to spoil it for people like my boy Surge Dragon that hasn't seen it yet. But yeah, in my video about Toonami Rewind coming to Adult Swim, I said that Triple H was doing a great job running the WWE. But I pretty much take back for what I said. Even though I'm still a fan of Triple H since the early 2000s when he was running the McMahon-Helmsley regime, he's doing a terrible job at booking. WWE, y'all need to get y'all shit together, as well as MTV, because Cartoon Network is opening up a can of whoop ass on both right now. Cartoon Network is winning over MTV and WWE. I did like multiple rants on Cartoon Network, WWE, and MTV on how garbage they become these days, but Cartoon Network is getting better slowly but surely. MTV and WWE needs to get their shit together. So I am gonna watch Raw next week on Netflix to see how it is. But if it's not gonna work, then I'm pretty much done watching WWE. I'm only gonna watch it for the pay-per-views, whether at home or at my boy Surge Dragon's crib. But as far as Raw and SmackDown goes, I'd rather watch the old episodes of Raw and SmackDown on Peacock from the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era. Because I don't think this is gonna work. And I heard, as much as I like The Rock, I heard he pretty much sold out after he laid a smackdown on Cody Rhodes' candy ass last year, and now they're friends. This is not The Rock that I used to know. Come on now. This is not going to work. So that's pretty much my thoughts about Raw on Netflix. Let's see how it goes when I watch it next week. If not, I'm just going to stick to watching the pay-per-views and stick to watching the old episodes of Raw and SmackDown on Peacock. Now, the first list of 2025 that I'm going to review is my top 10 NBA players of the 1990s. The 90s, in my opinion, was pretty much the best era of the NBA. And you know, I was born in the 90s. I was born in 1991. Even though the NBA was saved in the 1980s by Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, in my opinion, the 90s era of the NBA was at its peak. It all started when Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boy Pistons won the NBA Finals in 1990, until Michael Jordan and the Bulls did 2 three-peats in the finals from 91 to 93 and again from 96 to 98. Then my Houston Rockets won back-to-back in 94 and 95, and last but not least, the Spurs closed out the 90s decade winning an NBA title. So these are my lists of my NBA players of the 1990s. Now remember, this is my list, and you don't have to like my opinions about who do I rank high or low, but you have to respect it and move on. If you have an issue with my list, hey, leave a comments down below. Who are your top 10 NBA players of the 90s? And who is your number one? You already know who my number one is, but we're not going to get into that yet. And I got the honorable mentions before I get to number one. So, without wasting more time, let's just get right into my list. Starting off at number 10, Clyde the Glide Drexler. I've seen some people's videos of their top 10 NBA players of the 90s, and I see that they do not have Clyde Drexler on their list. They may have them as their honorable mention, but I do have them on my actual list. Clyde Drexler is widely considered one of the greatest NBA players and one of the best shooting guards of all time. He's definitely in my top 5 shooting guards. Does he have an MVP? No. Does he have finals appearances in the championship? Yes. He led the Trailblazers to the finals twice in the 90s, in 1990 and 1992, and they lost to the Pistons and the Bulls. Then he snuck into my Houston Rockets and helped them secure their second championship in 1995, sweeping the hell out of Shaquille O'Neal and the Magic. And he remained on my Houston Rockets until he retired in 1998. And just like his teammate Hakeem Olajuwon, they went to the same college here in Houston. He went to Sterling High School here in my hometown, Houston, Texas, and then him and Hakeem went to Houston in college before they both got drafted in the NBA in the 1980s. And he's also in the Houston Sports Hall of Fame along with Hakeem, Elvin Hayes, Carl Lewis, Big George Foreman, Mary Lou Retton, Lance Berkman, Andre Johnson, Cynthia Hooper, Cheryl Swoops, Greg Biggio, Jeff Bagwell, Earl Campbell, and many other Houston Sports Hall of Famers. Clyde the Glide deserves to be in my list of NBA players of the 90s. Number 9, John Stockton, best known for his scoring, assists, and steals. Also, he is one half of one of the greatest NBA duos of all time. He and Karl Malone led the Utah Jazz in the finals twice back-to-back, even though they lost to Michael Jordan and the Bulls. A 9-time assist leader, John Stockton is considered definitely one of the best point guards of all time. I'm glad to have him on my list of NBA players of the 90s. Number 8, Big Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing, I feel like, doesn't get talked about that much. He's considered one of the most underrated players of all time. He definitely won Rookie of the Year in 1986, in the 1985-1986 season. He led the New York Knicks to the finals in 1994, but eventually lost to my Houston Rockets. 5 years later, he went back to the finals even though he was injured, and eventually lost to the San Antonio Spurs. I feel like if Patrick Ewing did not get injured during the 1999 finals, I'm sure he would have won a championship by now. And he stayed loyal to the New York Knicks until the early 2000s. Yeah, that sucks that Big Patrick Ewing never won a championship, but if it wasn't for his injury, he probably would have won a championship by now. But it is what it is. Patrick Ewing deserves to be on my list of NBA players of the 90s. Number 7, the round mound of rebound, Charles Barkley. One of the shorter than your typical power forward, standing at 6'6", 220 pounds. He's known for using his strength and aggression to become one of the best rebounders and scorers. Sir Charles won an MVP in 1993, and then he ran into Michael Jordan and the Bulls in the 1993 finals and lost. Both him and MJ were 30 years old when they went against each other in the finals. Now, next month, they're both about to be 62. Yeah, we all know Chuck is known for his horrible NBA takes, and of course, Shaq clowning him for not having an NBA championship. But despite that, Chuck deserves the recognition that he deserves. One of the best rebounders in the history of the NBA. Now, number 6 might get a little controversial. I know I should have disqualified him from being on my list, because of what he did. But I had to put him on here because he's also part of the 90s era of the NBA. And I can't put him any higher than 6. So I think number 6 is a fair spot for him. If you got him higher on your list, then that's fine. Unfortunately, number 6, I have the mailman Karl Malone. And the reason why I said unfortunately is because let's face it, you all know I don't like this nigga Karl Malone, and you know I'm not a fan. He's just like birthday boy Robert Kelly, heavily birthday boy Elvis, Kevin Spacey, and many other famous people that are pedophiles. The dude likes little kids. He even fucked one little kid and got her pregnant, and he needs to be in jail for that. The only positive thing that I do like about the mailman, he did make a guest appearance on one episode of Static Shock with Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming, and Steve Nash. Other than that, I don't like Karl Malone, period. So, great player, 2-time MVP. Let's move on to my top 5. Number 5, my mom's birthday twin, Mr. Do-It-All, Scottie Pippen. We all know Scottie Pippen is known for being second fiddle to Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan even said it himself. He would have never won 6 championships without Scottie Pippen. And that's a fact. Mike did win all 6 rings with Scottie. And going back to the 1991 finals, when Michael Jordan couldn't guard anybody like Magic Johnson, guess what Scottie Pippen did? He stepped in and guarded Magic Johnson. And I don't want to call Scottie Pippen the Robin to Michael Jordan's Batman. I'm pretty much going to call him the Superman to Michael Jordan's Batman, because I prefer Dennis Rodman as the Robin to Michael Jordan's Batman than Scottie. I don't really want to call him no sidekick. He was more a Superman than Robin, in my honest opinion. And it sucks that he never won Defensive Player of the Year. But other than that, he's still a 6-time champion, and he's a 1995 steals leader. So, Mr. Pippen, you're definitely in my top 5 NBA players of the 90s. Now we on to number 4. I know people say that he shouldn't be high on my list, but he's definitely in my top 5 for sure. This is my favorite center. He's at number 4. I got his jersey right here, and no surprise that I still have his jersey. Give me 1 second. Number 4, Shaquille O'Neal. The most dominant player in the history of the NBA. The first overall first-round pick of the 1992 draft by the Orlando Magic. And of course, he won Rookie of the Year in 1993. Shaq made his first NBA Finals appearance at the age of 23 in 1999 with the Orlando Magic, getting swept by my Houston Rockets. He spent one more season with the Orlando Magic before he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, and he created one of the greatest NBA duos of all time, along with the Black Mamba Kobe Bryant. We all know Shaq and Kobe were definitely the Tupac and Biggie of the NBA, and I know you guys are going to agree with me on that. Just like Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell were the Tupac and Biggie of Nickelodeon. And when they did that 50th anniversary, Shaq would not reach championship gold until the early 2000s. And when they did that 50th anniversary team in 1996, they put Shaq there when he was only 4 years in the league. And they consider him one of the greatest, one of the top centers of all time, which is true. Do I consider him the greatest center of all time? Not really. Is he my personal favorite center? Absolutely. Number 3, the Admiral, David Robinson. Another center that doesn't get talked about that much. They love talking about Shaq and Hakeem, but they don't never talk about centers like Patrick Ewing or even David Robinson. Look at this dude's accolades in the 90s. League MVP, check. Defensive Player of the Year, check. Rookie of the Year, check. Rebounding leader, check. Blocks leader, check. Did he win a championship in the 90s? He won his first championship in 1999 along with the San Antonio Spurs, beating Patrick Ewing and the New York Knicks. If he did not have Tim Duncan, I'm sure David Robinson would be one of those players that would have never won a championship. This dude's accolades was out of control in the 1990s, from winning Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, a league MVP, steals leader, and of course blocks leader. But many people don't even remember it, or they forgot who David Robinson is, which is why he don't get talked about that much. I'm happy to put him in my top 3 of my top 10 NBA players of the 90s, because I feel like he don't get the recognition he deserves. Number 2, my Houston Rockets center, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. The first overall first-round pick of the 1984 draft by my Houston Rockets, where him and Ralph Sampson became the original Twin Tower of that team. Even though he was born in Nigeria, he still went to the same college that his teammate Clyde Drexler went to here in Houston from 81 to 84 before he got drafted to the NBA. And he stayed loyal to my Houston Rockets in the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s before he left to go play for the Toronto Raptors during his farewell tour. During Michael Jordan's absence, Hakeem won back-to-back titles for the Rockets in 94 and 95. I believe his first finals appearance was in the 80s, but eventually they lost to the Boston Celtics. Fast forward to the 90s, where he won back-to-back titles in 94 and 95, beating the Knicks 4-3 in 94 and sweeping Shaq and the Magic in 1995. He had an opportunity to go back to the finals for the third year in a row in 96, but eventually they lost to Gary Payton and the Supersonics. I give the Supersonics credit because they came to play. But I wish it was the Rockets and the Bulls in the 1996 finals. I would have loved to see Hakeem go up against MJ in the 96 finals. I always predict the Rockets and the Bulls to go against each other in the finals. And we cannot forget that Hakeem is known for his dream shake. He did the dream shake to the guy we just got through talking about, David Robinson. How iconic is that? One center doing a dream shake to another center. That is just amazing. Two-time champ, two-time finals MVP, two-time defensive player of the year, three-time steals leader, three-time blocks leader. And just like his teammate Clyde Drexler, he is also in the Houston Sports Hall of Fame. Hakeem is definitely my number 2 NBA player of the 90s. Before I get to number 1, even though you already know who the hell it is, here are my honorable mentions. Reggie Miller, Gary the Glove Payton, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning, Dennis Rodman, Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill, and Shawn Kemp. And now you already know who the hell is my number 1 NBA player of the 90s. You already know who it is. Mike Henry knows. Benny G94 knows. Juggalo Jigsaw Reaction knows. And Black Saiyan knows. Anybody knows who is my number 1 NBA player of the 90s. It's without a shadow of a doubt the undisputed GOAT, His Airness, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. You saw this coming, right? Y'all knew MJ was going to be my number one. And I'm not going to spend time talking about his accolades in the 90s because it's undeniable why the hell is he number one on my list. And not only is he the GOAT NBA player of all time, but he's the greatest athlete in the history of sports. All these players on my list, including my honorable mentions, they never won a championship because of Jordan, with the exception of Clyde Drexler, David Robinson, Hakeem, and his teammates Rodman and Pippen. They all got dominated by Jordan in the postseason, with the exception of Rodman and Pippen, because they were Jordan's teammates. Gary Payton, Alonzo Mourning, and Shaq would not win championships until the 2000s. Six-time champion, six-time finals MVP, four-time league MVP, two-time steals leader, two-time slam dunk contest winner, seven-time scoring champion, 6-0 in the finals, and never went to a game 7. That's all I got to say about MJ. You can thank my dad that I was a fan of the Bulls when they won those 6 titles, and why MJ is forever my number one GOAT. And if you disagree saying that MJ is not the GOAT, you're just trolling and you don't know a damn thing about basketball. MJ is, was, and will forever be the GOAT for generations to come. That wraps up my top 10 NBA players of the 1990s. If you like the list, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Leave your comment down below. What's your top 10 NBA players of the 90s? And who is your number one? Subscribe to the channel for more of my list and hit the notification bell. Next time, the next list I'm going to reveal is my top 20 albums of 1995. I've already finished that list, and I finished my top 20 TV shows of the year 2000. I'm currently working on my top 20 TV shows from 1995, my top 20 TV shows from 2005, and I just got done doing my top 20 Nickelodeon shows of the 90s and my top 20 Nickelodeon shows of the 2000s. And I got done doing my top 10 cartoon duos. All that is coming soon. But the next list I'm going to reveal is my top 20 albums from the year 1995. And I finished my top 15 Gemini rappers list. Let me know what you think about my top 10 NBA players of the 90s. And I'm also working on my top 20 or my top 10 NBA players of the 2000s. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a top 10 NBA players of the 1980s because I wasn't born during that era. But I know some NBA players from the 80s like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, James Worthy, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Big Patrick Ewing, Kevin McHale, Adrian Dantley. You know those players. George Gervin, Dominique Wilkins. The list goes on of all the NBA players that I know from the 80s. So it's unknown if I'm going to do that. I'm just doing my top 10 NBA players of the 90s and the 2000s, because those are the two eras of the NBA that I grew up watching. Anyway, I'll catch you in my next video. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. No more talk. Oh, you know what? My next rant for tomorrow is celebrating 30 years of the Big Comfy Couch making his debut here in the US on PBS, and 25 years of Malcolm in the Middle premiering on Fox. That's my next rant for tomorrow. Excuse me. But until then, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. No more talk.